The doctor was about to sign a document that would end his career. Until the nurse did, Dr. Michael Robert Johnson trembled as he held the pen over the medical error confession document on his desk. 3 decades of exemplary medicine were about to crumble because of an accusation he knew was false. That's when he felt a gentle hand on his shoulder. Turning around, he saw Sarah Thompson, the head nurse at Mercy General Hospital in San Diego on the California coast. Her eyes held a determination he had never seen before. "Dr. Michael, don't sign this," she whispered, glancing around to make sure they were alone in the room. "Sarah, I have no choice. If I don't sign, they'll destroy my family too," the doctor replied, his voice choked. "You do have a choice. I know the truth about what happened to patient Brian Miller." Michael froze. The name of the 28-year-old echoed in his mind like a torment. According to official records, Brian had lost his life during a surgery under his care due to medical negligence. But Michael knew something was wrong with that story. "What do you mean, Sarah? What do you know?" The nurse closed the door and stepped closer. "Brian didn't pass away, doctor. He's alive. I've been caring for him myself for the last 2 months in the hospital's secret rehabilitation wing." Sarah's words hit Michael like lightning. He let the pen drop onto the desk. "That's impossible. I saw the death certificate. I was at the funeral." "It was all staged, doctor. Dr. Richard Evans operated on Brian that night, not you. There were serious complications because of a mistake he made, but the young man survived. They needed a scapegoat, and you were chosen." Michael's legs weakened. Everything was starting to make sense now. The sudden pressure to sign the confession, the veiled threats against his 16-year-old daughter Emily, the strange insistence from the director, Dr. William Evans, to resolve everything quickly. "But why me, Sarah? Why not another doctor?" "Because you're the only one in this hospital who never bowed to Dr. William and his son, Dr. Richard's schemes. You've always reported irregularities, always fought for ethics. They've wanted to get rid of you for a long time." Sarah walked to the window and watched the hospital activity. It was almost 7 in the morning and the night shift was preparing to hand over. "Sarah, how did you find out about all this?" "I've worked here for 22 years, doctor, since I graduated. I know every corner of this place. When they said Brian had passed, something didn't add up. I was on duty that night, and I saw when they took him to the operating room. You weren't even at the hospital at that time." Michael tried to remember that night 2 months ago. It was a Tuesday, he recalled perfectly. He was at home having dinner with his wife Jennifer and daughter when he got a call from the hospital saying his presence was urgently needed. "I got here around 11 at night," Michael murmured. "Exactly. But Brian's surgery started at 8. Dr. Richard operated. There were complications, and by the time you arrived, they had already moved him to another floor. You were taken to an empty room where they staged the whole thing." "But I saw the body, Sarah. They showed it to me." It was another patient who had actually passed away that night, a 70-year-old man with no family. They took advantage of the situation. The revelation was devastating. Michael had to lean on the chair to keep from falling. "Where is Brian now?" "On the 7th floor, restricted wing. He's recovering well, but he was threatened that if he told the truth, his family would suffer the consequences." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. Brian looked at the document on his desk. Now he understood why the pressure had been so intense these past few days. Dr. William had scheduled a meeting with the ethics board for that afternoon and wanted everything resolved before then. "Sarah, do you have proof of what you're saying?" The nurse smiled for the first time since entering the room. "Yes, doctor, and much more than you'd imagine." She pulled a small recorder from her uniform pocket. "I've recorded several conversations between Dr. William and Dr. Richard over the last few weeks. They have no idea I know everything." "Why are you doing this, Sarah? Why risk yourself for me?" Sarah Thompson's eyes filled with tears. "Because I've already lost someone to medical negligence, doctor. My younger brother Jason died 5 years ago at another hospital because of a covered-up mistake. I swore I'd never let it happen again." Brian stepped closer and placed a hand on the nurse's shoulder. "I'm so sorry, Sarah, I didn't know." Since then, I've watched everything that happens here. You can't imagine how many cases have been swept under the rug, how many honest doctors have been hurt to protect the incompetent ones with influence. What do you suggest we do? First, we need to talk to Brian. He needs to know he's not alone in this fight. Then we'll gather all the doctors and staff who've been wronged by the Evans family over the years. Brian thought of his daughter, Emily. Over the last few weeks, she'd come home from school with her face swollen from crying. She said she was being bullied but didn't want to talk about it. Now he understood why. Sarah, is my daughter being threatened at school? Ashley Evans, Dr. Williams' daughter, is making her life hell. Spreading lies, saying her father is a murderer. It's all part of the plan to break your resistance. Anger boiled in Brian's chest. Messing with his career was one thing, but targeting his family was unacceptable. "Let's go see Brian," he said, tucking the unsigned document into the drawer. "Doctor, there's one more thing you should know before we go." "What is it?" "Your wife, Dr. Jennifer. She doesn't know any of this, does she?" Brian shook his head. Jennifer was a lawyer, specialized in medical law, but she'd retired 5 years ago to care for her elderly mother. I didn't want to worry her. She already has enough with Mrs. Eleanor, who has Alzheimer's. "You need to tell her, Doctor. We'll need her help. And there's more. Dr. Jennifer discovered some irregularities in the hospital contracts when she still worked here. She might have important information." They left Brian's office and headed for the elevator. The hallway buzzed with shift changes, nurses and doctors rushing by, unaware of the conversation that had just taken place. In the elevator, Sarah continued, "Doctor, do you remember Dr. Rachel Wilson? Of course, she was an excellent pediatrician, left the hospital about 2 years ago. She didn't leave, Doctor. She was forced to resign after questioning a treatment Dr. Richard was giving a child. The child almost didn't make it because of his stubbornness. Where is she now? Working at a clinic on the outskirts of San Diego, earning a third of what she made here. And there's more. Dr. Andrew Clark, who was head of cardiology, was also unfairly removed." The elevator stopped on the 7th floor. The doors opened to reveal a quieter, restricted access hallway. "How do you even get in here, Sarah?" "I have clearance for all floors. I've been head nurse for 8 years. They walked to the end of the hallway where there were only 3 rooms. Sarah stopped in front of the second one. "He's here," she whispered. She knocked lightly before opening the door. The room was simple but comfortable. A young man with tan skin and curly hair was sitting on the bed reading a book. When he saw Michael, his eyes widened. "Dr. Michael, what are you doing here?" "Hi, Brian. I came to talk to you about what really happened that night." The young man glanced nervously at Sarah. "You can speak, Brian. Dr. Michael knows the truth now," the nurse encouraged. Brian closed the book and took a deep breath. "Doctor, I really wanted to talk to you before. They told me that if I said anything, my mum would lose her job in the hospital cleaning staff, and my little sister would be kicked out of the private school she attends on scholarship." Michael stepped closer to the bed. "Brian, I need you to tell me exactly what happened." "I was working on a construction site in downtown San Diego. I fell from the scaffolding and hit my head. When I got here, I was conscious but in a lot of pain. Dr. Richard said I needed emergency surgery to stop bleeding in my brain." "Go on." "During the surgery, something went wrong. I remember waking up really confused. I couldn't speak properly or move the left side of my body. They said it was normal, that it would pass." Sarah added, "Dr. Richard made a mistake during the surgery. He touched an area he shouldn't have. Brian almost ended up with permanent damage." "And why did they blame Dr. Michael?" Brian asked. "Because your father drives for the construction company, right?" Michael said. "Yeah, but what does that have to do with it?" "The construction company has very high life and accident insurance. If medical negligence was proven, the hospital would have to pay a huge settlement." Sarah continued, "But if it was Dr. Michael's fault, someone who doesn't have the same political protection as the Evans family, it would be easier to sweep it under the rug. Plus, they'd get rid of someone who's always been a thorn in their side." Brian stood up from the bed. He was noticeably thinner than 2 months ago, but he could walk normally. "Doctor, I'm fine now. The physical therapy here is excellent, but they won't let me leave or talk to my family. Your family thinks you... That I'm gone, yeah. It was horrible seeing my mum crying at the funeral, but Nurse Sarah explained that if I showed up then, it would be even worse for everyone. Michael felt the weight of the situation. It wasn't just his career at stake, it was an entire family's life. Brian, would you be willing to tell the truth publicly? Of course, Doctor, I can't take this lie anymore. Sarah checked her watch. Doctor, it's 8:30. Shouldn't you be at the administrative meeting now? Michael had completely forgotten. Every Wednesday morning, there was a department heads meeting. That's right, I have to go down. Sarah, can you stay with Brian? Of course, but Doctor, be careful what you say down there. They still don't know we've uncovered everything. Michael went down to the second floor where the meeting room was. When he entered, Dr. William Evans greeted him with a fake smile. Michael, my friend, how are you? I hope you've thought carefully about our conversation yesterday. Good morning, William. I'm still considering the situation. Dr. Richard, William's son, sat at the far end of the table. He was a 35-year-old man, arrogant, holding the position of deputy medical director, more because of his father's influence than his own competence. Dr. Michael, I hope you understand this needs to be resolved today. The ethics board meeting is at 2 this afternoon, Richard said, avoiding eye contact. I completely understand, Dr. Richard. The meeting continued with routine administrative matters, but Brian could hardly pay attention. His mind was focused on finding a way to expose the truth without putting anyone in danger. When the meeting ended, Dr. William called him aside for a private conversation. Brian, you're a good doctor. It would be a shame to see your career end over a mistake. Sign the document, accept the 2-year suspension, and after some time, we'll discuss your return. And my daughter? Will the threats stop? Dr. William pretended not to understand. What threats, Brian? You're starting to sound paranoid. Maybe you need a vacation. Brian left the room more determined than ever. It was time to act. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. He returned to the 7th floor where he found Sarah talking to Jason. She had brought a tablet and was showing something to the young man. What are you looking at? Doctor, I managed to access the surgery records from that night. Look here, said Sarah, turning the screen toward Brian. On the screen was the official record of Jason's surgery. The name of the surgeon in charge was Dr. Michael Robert Johnson, but there was something odd about the digital signature. That's not my electronic signature, said Brian, examining it carefully. Exactly, they forged it. They used your access code to make it seem like you performed the surgery. How did they get my code? Do you remember the week before that surgery you had trouble with your login? The IT team said they were doing system maintenance? Brian remembered. He had given his code to the technician to fix the issue. Is the IT technician involved too? No, Doctor. But Dr. Richard has access to all the doctor's codes. It's part of his security system as the deputy director. Jason, who had been listening, asked, So they can do this to any doctor? Unfortunately, yes, replied Sarah. Brian thought of all the colleagues who might be going through the same situation. Sarah, you said other doctors have been harmed. How can we find them? I have a list, Doctor. At least 6 cases in the last 3 years. She pulled a piece of paper from her pocket with handwritten names and numbers. Dr. Andrew Clark, Dr. Rachel Wilson, Dr. Daniel Taylor, Dr. Jessica Brown, Dr. John Smith, and Dr. Lucy Parker. Brian knew them all. They were competent doctors who had left the hospital under strange circumstances. We'll need to talk to them, but first I have to speak with my wife. Doctor, do you want me to come along? It might be easier to explain with the evidence I have. That would be good, Sarah. Jennifer will understand the situation better seeing the documents. They said goodbye to Jason, promising to return soon, and headed down to the parking lot. Brian was nervous thinking about how Jennifer would react to learning he had hidden something so serious. On the way to their home in the Pacific Heights neighborhood, Sarah shared more details about her investigation. Doctor, the Evans scheme isn't just about covering up medical errors. They also overcharge for medications and equipment. How so? They buy expired or nearly expired drugs at low prices and sell them to the hospital as if they were new. The difference goes into their pockets. That's extremely serious, Sarah. And there's more. They have a private clinic where they treat patients who should be getting care at the public hospital. They use Mercy General Hospital's equipment, but charge as if it were private care. Brian parked in front of their house, a modest two-story home in downtown San Diego. Jennifer was in the garden, watering the plants, when she saw them arrive. "Hi, honey." "Sarah, what a surprise," greeted Jennifer, wiping her hands on her apron. "Hi, Jennifer. I need to talk to you about something very serious," said Michael. "What happened? You look pale." They entered the living room. Jennifer prepared coffee while Michael struggled to find the right words. "Jennifer, do you remember the case of Brian Miller?" "Of course. The young man who had complications during surgery. You were really shaken by that." "He didn't pass away, Jennifer. He's alive in the hospital." Jennifer dropped her cup on the floor. The sound of shattering porcelain echoed through the house. "What do you mean, Michael? I was at the funeral with you." Sarah Thompson stood up to help clean the broken pieces. "Dr. Jennifer, I can explain everything. But first, you need to know that Dr. Michael is being blackmailed into confessing to a mistake he didn't make." Jennifer sank heavily into the armchair. At 45, she had seen many complicated cases in her career as a lawyer, but she never imagined her own family would become victims of such a scheme. "Sarah, tell me everything from the beginning." The nurse spent the next 30 minutes explaining the whole situation, showing the documents and recordings she had gathered. Jennifer listened in silence, her expression growing more serious by the minute. "Michael, you should have told me this from day one," she finally said. "I know, honey, but I didn't want to worry you." "Worry me? Michael, you almost ruined your career because of this naivety." Jennifer stood up and began pacing the room. "Sarah, are these recordings legal?" "Yes, doctor. As head nurse, I'm authorized to record conversations in situations involving patient safety." "Perfect. And Brian, is he willing to testify?" "He is. He was just afraid of the threats." Jennifer stopped in front of her husband. "Michael, do you remember when I worked at the hospital and found irregularities in the supply contracts?" "I do. You said there was something suspicious, but you never went into details." "That's because at the time Dr. William convinced me they were just administrative errors that would be fixed. But now I see it was part of the scheme." "Do you still have the documents?" "I have copies of everything in my office. Overpriced contracts, fake invoices, a whole series of irregularities." Sarah smiled for the first time that day. "Dr. Jennifer, this is excellent. With these documents, we can prove the Evans family is involved in much more than just covering up medical errors." "We need to act fast," said Jennifer. "The ethics committee meeting is this afternoon. If Michael signs that document, it'll be much harder to prove his innocence later." "What do you suggest?" "Let's gather all the affected doctors, Brian, the evidence, and present everything to the committee before the official meeting." Michael felt relieved to have finally told his wife the truth. "Jennifer, there's one more thing. Emily is being bullied at school because of this." "What? Why didn't you tell me?" "She asked us not to, said she didn't want to worry you too." Jennifer rushed upstairs to her daughter's room. Emily was getting ready for school. "Em, come here, we need to talk." The teenager came down with her backpack on. She was a pretty girl with her mother's brown hair and her father's green eyes. "Mum, I'm going to be late for class." "Sit down, sweetheart, about what's happening at school." Emily burst into tears immediately. "Mum, Ashley is spreading rumors that Dad killed his patient. She showed everyone the newspaper article. No one wants to talk to me." Jennifer hugged her daughter. "Em, your dad didn't kill anyone. He's the victim of a huge lie. But we're going to fix this today." "How?" "By proving the truth. And you're going to help us." "Me? How?" Sarah stepped closer. "Emily, could you record a conversation with Ashley where she admits she's doing this because her father told her to?" "I think so. She's really silly, always bragging about how powerful her dad is." "That would be very important for us, sweetheart," said Michael. "Then I'll go to school today, but promise me this will stop." "We promise," said Jennifer, kissing her daughter's forehead. After Emily left for school, the three adults headed to Jennifer's office in downtown San Diego. The office was small but well organized. Jennifer went straight to the files and pulled out a thick folder. "Here are all the documents I managed to gather back then," she said, placing the folder on the table. Sarah and Michael moved closer to look. There were dozens of contracts, invoices, and payment receipts, all showing irregularities. "Jennifer, this shows they've embezzled millions over the years," said Michael, examining the papers. "Exactly, and look at this contract for oncology drug supplies." Jennifer pointed to a document where the unit price was 3 times the market value. "The supplier is the same company where Dr. Richard is a silent partner," Sarah added. "How do you know that?" "Because I investigated. The company's name is MedExpress Distributors. Dr. Richard is listed as a minority shareholder, but he's really the one in charge." Michael sat down, trying to process the scale of the scheme. "How many patients could have been harmed because of this greed?" "Many, Doctor. Expired medications, faulty equipment, unnecessary surgeries to justify inflated costs." Jennifer arranged all the documents in chronological order. "Now we need to contact the other doctors. Sarah, do you have their phone numbers?" "I do. But, Dr. Michael, there's something I haven't told you yet." "What is it?" "Dr. Andrew Clark, who was head of cardiology, he wasn't just fired. They made up a story that he was stealing medicine to sell outside the hospital." "That's awful." "He temporarily lost his medical license, had to sell his house, and his wife left him. The man's life was ruined." Jennifer clenched her fists. "Let's call him right now." The phone rang several times before someone answered. "Hello? Dr. Andrew, this is Dr. Jennifer Johnson, Dr. Michael's wife. I need to speak with you urgently." "Dr. Jennifer, it's been a while. What's going on?" "Doctor, we've discovered you were a victim of the same scheme happening to my husband now. Can we meet?" There was a long pause on the other end. "Dr. Jennifer, are you sure about what you're saying?" "Absolutely. We have proof of everything." "Where do you want to meet?" "At my office. Sarah Thompson is here with us." "Nurse Sarah? She's always been a person of integrity. I'm on my way." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing. 30 minutes later, Dr. Andrew knocked on the office door. He was a 50-year-old man who looked much older due to the stress of recent years. "Dr. Andrew, sit here," said Jennifer, offering a chair. "Dr. Michael, you look exhausted. What's going on?" Michael recounted the whole story of the Bryan case while Sarah showed the evidence she had gathered. "That's exactly what they did to me," said Andrew, anger in his voice. "They planted empty morphine vials in my locker and claimed I was selling them to addicts on the street." "How did you find out it was a lie?" "Because I never had access to those specific medications. They were controlled by Dr. Richard personally, but back then no one would listen to me." Jennifer pulled more papers from the folder. "Dr. Andrew, look at this. Records of medications that disappeared from the inventory exactly on the dates you were on vacation." Andrew analyzed the documents carefully. "I was traveling with my family on all those dates. I have photos, plane tickets, everything to prove it." "Doctor, would you be willing to testify about this?" "Of course, I lost everything because of them. My wife, my home, my reputation. If there's a chance to clear my name, I'll go all the way." Sarah picked up the phone to call Dr. Rachel. "Dr. Rachel, this is Sarah from Mercy General Hospital. Can you come to Dr. Jennifer's office? We have something very important to discuss." "Sarah, you know I don't like talking about that hospital." "Doctor, it's about proving you were wronged and maybe getting your job back. I'm on my way." An hour later, the office was full. Besides Rachel and Andrew, they had managed to contact 2 more doctors who had also been harmed, Dr. Daniel Taylor and Dr. Jessica Brown. Each told their story, and the pattern was always the same: false accusations, forged documents, veiled threats, and in the end, dismissal or forced leave. "Everyone, it's clear there's a systematic scheme to remove honest doctors from the hospital," said Jennifer. "But why would they do that?" asked Dr. Rachel. "Total control," Sarah replied. "With honest doctors in the hospital, they can't run their corruption schemes freely." Michael, who had stayed quiet for most of the conversation, stood up. "Everyone, the ethics committee meeting is in 2 hours. We need to decide how to proceed." Jennifer spread all the documents on the table. We'll present everything to the committee before the official meeting. With this much evidence, they'll have no choice but to investigate. What if they're bought too? Asked Dr. Andrew. Some committee members might be involved, but not all. Plus, we have the press as an option. Dr. Jessica, the youngest in the group, suggested, why don't we record a video with all of us telling our stories? If the committee fails, we post it online. Good idea, said Sarah. I also have contacts at the local paper. As they organized their strategy, Michael's phone rang. It was Emily. Dad, I did it. Ashley confessed everything. What do you mean, honey? I recorded her saying her father told her to torment me so you'd be weaker and sign the document. She even laughed when she said it. Emily, you're amazing. Keep that recording safe. I already sent a copy to your email too. Michael looked at the group with a smile. Now we even have a confession about the threats to my family. Jennifer hugged her husband. Michael, do you see how wrong you were to try handling this alone? You're right, love, but now we're all together. Dr. Andrew stood up. Everyone, I need something from you. What is it, Doctor? When we prove all this, I want your help filing a lawsuit for emotional damages against the Evans family. They destroyed my life, and I want justice. Of course, Doctor, said Jennifer. I'll represent you myself. It was noon when they decided to head to the hospital. The plan was to meet with the Ethics Committee Chairman, Dr. Lawrence Fisher, before the official meeting. Dr. Lawrence is an honorable man, said Michael. If he sees this evidence, he'll take action. They split into 2 cars and drove to the hospital. On the way, Sarah called Brian to let him know they'd pick him up. Brian, do you feel well enough to come down and meet us? I do, Sarah. I'm tired of hiding. When they arrived at the hospital, Sarah went up to get Brian while the others waited in the lobby. 10 minutes later, she came back down with the young man. Some employees looked surprised to see him, but no one said a word. Brian, these are the doctors who were also wronged by the Evans family, Michael introduced. Nice to meet you, everyone. I hope we can achieve justice today. They headed to the 3rd floor where Dr. Lawrence Fisher's office was located. His secretary said he was free and could see them. Dr. Lawrence, we've brought some very important information about irregularities at the hospital, Michael said. Dr. Lawrence Fisher was a 65-year-old man with white hair and a serious yet kind expression. Please have a seat. What's this about? Jennifer took the lead and began explaining the whole situation, presenting the documents one by one. Dr. Lawrence listened attentively, asking occasional questions. When she finished, he remained silent for a few minutes. Dr. Michael, what you've shown me is extremely serious. If true, we're dealing with a criminal organization within the hospital. Dr. Lawrence, all the evidence is here. Documents, recordings, witnesses. And young Brian, he's really alive. Yes, Doctor, Brian replied, and I can prove everything that happened. Dr. Lawrence stood and walked to the window. Michael, I always suspected something was off with some of the cases reviewed by the board, but I could never prove anything. How long have you suspected? About 2 years, ever since Dr. Andrew was accused of stealing medication. The story never fully convinced me. And now, Doctor, what can we do? We'll cancel today's meeting and call an emergency board session for tomorrow morning. I'll need a few hours to review all this material. Dr. Lawrence, what if the Evans family finds out and tries to destroy evidence? I'll take the necessary legal steps. I have contacts at the division specializing in crimes against public health. Jennifer perked up. Doctor, does this mean we'll finally get justice? If everything you've shown me checks out, yes, but I must investigate carefully to avoid any wrongful actions. For the first time in weeks, Michael felt relieved. Dr. Lawrence, what happens to me in the meantime? I'm still being pressured to sign that confession. You won't sign anything. From now on, consider yourself under the protection of the Ethics Board. As they left Dr. Lawrence's office, they encountered Dr. William walking down the hallway. He visibly tensed upon seeing Michael accompanied by all the dismissed doctors. Michael, what's this little meeting about? He asked, trying to mask his nerves. Just clearing up some misunderstandings, William. I hope you signed the document we discussed. I didn't. Dr. William glanced around and saw Dr. Lawrence stepping out of his office. Lawrence, what's going on here? William, I've just cancelled today's meeting. An issue has come up that requires further investigation. What issue? You'll find out tomorrow at the emergency board session. Dr. William's face turned pale. Lawrence, I hope you're not being swayed by fabrications and lies. William, I deal only in facts and evidence. See you tomorrow. Dr. William hurried toward the elevator, clearly shaken. Everyone, I think it's best we part ways for now, Dr. Lawrence said. Tomorrow at 8 in the morning, all of you in the boardroom. As they left the hospital, Sarah remarked, Did you see Dr. William's face? He knows we've uncovered everything. Sarah, do you think he'll try something? Possibly, Dr. Michael, we'd better stay alert. Michael went home with Jennifer and Sarah. Emily had just returned from school and was eager to hear about the meeting. Dad, did you prove your innocence? Not yet, sweetheart, but we're on the right track. How was school after the recording? Ashley got all embarrassed when she realized I had recorded it. Now she's afraid her parents will find out. Jennifer smiled. Em, you were very brave today. That afternoon, Michael took the opportunity to rest for the first time in weeks. He knew the next day would be decisive, but he finally had hope that the truth would come to light. Around 6 in the evening, the phone rang. It was Dr. Andrew. Michael, have you seen the local news? No, why? There's a report about irregularities at Mercy General. Someone leaked information to the press. Michael turned on the TV and searched for the local news channel. The reporter was live in front of the hospital. Employees at Mercy General Hospital have exposed a corruption scheme involving the institution's leadership. According to sources, there is evidence of overbilling, misuse of medication, and falsification of medical records. Jennifer, come see this. The report continued. The hospital's administration refused to give interviews but promised a statement soon. The institution's ethics board confirmed an emergency meeting tomorrow to review the allegations. Michael turned off the TV. Sarah must have contacted her friends in the press, Jennifer said. The phone rang again. This time it was Sarah herself. Dr. Michael, did you see the report? I did. Was it you who leaked the information? Not exactly. Dr. Lawrence thought it best to go public to pressure those involved so they wouldn't try to flee or destroy evidence. Good strategy. Doctor, there's more. Dr. William tried to enter the 7th floor this afternoon, but was stopped by security. He claimed he was making a routine visit. Was he trying to get to Brian? Absolutely. That's why Dr. Lawrence already arranged special protection for him. That night, Michael slept peacefully for the first time in a long while. He knew there were still obstacles ahead, but he finally wasn't alone in the fight. The next morning, they arrived at the hospital at 7:30. The front of the building was bustling, with several news vans and even a few police cars. Michael, it looks like things have gotten serious, Jennifer remarked. They found Dr. Lawrence at the hospital entrance. Good morning, everyone. I hope you slept well because it's going to be a long day. Dr. Lawrence, is all this commotion because of us? Partly, yes. The specialized police unit decided to monitor our session for a potential investigation. They all went up together to the ethics boardroom, a spacious area with a large oval table and chairs for about 20 people. Already present were the 5 board members, 2 detectives, Brian and his mother, who had been contacted the night before. Mrs. Deborah, how are you holding up? Michael asked Brian's mother. Doctor, I didn't sleep all night. Knowing my son was alive and that I mourned someone else's funeral was too much. Mom, what matters is that everything will be resolved now, Brian said, hugging her. At 8 sharp, Dr. Lawrence opened the session. Gentlemen, we are gathered for an emergency meeting to address serious allegations against members of this hospital's leadership. At that moment, Dr. William entered the room, accompanied by Dr. Richard and a lawyer. Lawrence, I hope this whole farce is cleared up quickly. We have a hospital to run. William, please take a seat. We'll begin by hearing the allegations. Dr. Lawrence gave the floor to Michael, who recounted the entire story from the beginning. When he finished, the detectives asked a few technical questions. Dr. Michael, are you certain you weren't at the hospital the night of Mr. Brian's surgery? Absolutely. I even have credit card records showing I had dinner with my family until 10 that night. And what time did you arrive at the hospital? Around 11. Jennifer presented the documents about the financial irregularities. Dr. William grew increasingly nervous as she spoke. "These are old documents taken out of context," he protested. "Dr. William," said one of the officers, "can you explain these contracts where the prices are 3 times higher than market value? These are normal negotiations. Sometimes we pay more for quality." It was Sarah Thompson's turn to present the recordings she had made. When the conversations between the Evans family about how to resolve the Michael problem began playing, the room fell completely silent. In the recording, Dr. Richard said clearly, "Dad, if Michael doesn't sign that confession soon, we'll have to use more direct methods against his family." Dr. William stood abruptly. "These recordings are illegal. They can't be used." "Dr. William," Dr. Lawrence interrupted, "the recordings were made by an authorized employee under circumstances protecting the integrity of patients and staff." The Evans family's lawyer asked to speak with his clients privately, but Dr. Lawrence refused. The session continues. Now we'll hear the testimony of Mr. Brian Miller. Brian stood and walked to the front of the table. "Gentlemen, I'm alive. What happened to me that night was very different from what was officially reported." He recounted in detail the surgery with Dr. Richard, the complications, and how he was convinced to stay hidden in the hospital. "Why did you agree to stay hidden?" one of the council members asked. "Because they threatened my family. They said if I told the truth, my mother would lose her job and my sister would be expelled from school." Mrs. Deborah began to cry. "Dr. William, how could you do this to a hard-working family?" Dr. William didn't answer. He was visibly shaken. Then Dr. Richard stood up. "I want to make a deal. If you guarantee I won't face criminal charges, I'll tell you everything I know." "Richard!" Dr. William shouted. "Be quiet!" But Dr. Richard ignored his father. "Officer, my father forced me into this scheme ever since I graduated. I never wanted any part of it." "Go on," said the officer. "Brian's surgery really went wrong because of me. It was a simple procedure, but I was nervous and made a mistake. When I realized there could be lasting damage, I panicked." "And how did the idea of blaming Dr. Michael come about?" "It was my father's idea. He said Michael had been a problem for a long time, always questioning our decisions, always causing trouble." Dr. William tried to stand and leave, but the officers stopped him. "You can't leave until the session is over, Doctor." Dr. Richard continued his confession. "We forged the documents using Dr. Michael's access code. Then we faked Brian's death using the body of another patient who had passed away that same night. And the medications that went missing from inventory, my father sold them to private clinics. The scheme has been going on for at least 5 years. And the other doctors who were fired. They were all too honest. My father said they got in the way of our business." Dr. Lawrence interrupted. "Dr. Richard, you're confessing to serious crimes. Are you sure you want to continue without a private lawyer present?" "Yes. I'm tired of living this lie." The session lasted 3 more hours. In the end, Dr. William and Dr. Richard were arrested on the spot for document forgery and forming a criminal organization. Dr. Michael was formally cleared of all charges, and the other doctors had their cases reviewed and were also exonerated. The Ethics Board further decided to establish a permanent investigative committee to prevent similar cases from happening in the future. 2 months later, Michael was back at work, now as the interim medical director of Mercy General Hospital. Jennifer returned to practicing law to defend other healthcare professionals who had suffered similar injustices. Sarah was promoted to nursing coordinator and created a strict protocol for anonymous reporting to protect employees who uncovered irregularities. Brian made a full recovery and returned to work. He and his family sued the Evans family for emotional damages and won a settlement that allowed him to complete the nursing degree he had always dreamed of pursuing. Emily and Ashley, surprisingly, became friends after the truth came out. Ashley publicly apologized for the bullying and became one of the biggest advocates for honesty at school. Dr. Andrew managed to regain his medical license and returned to work as a cardiologist at Mercy General. Dr. Rachel was reinstated as head of the pediatrics department. The Evans family was sentenced to 5 years in prison and barred from holding any positions in healthcare. They had to repay all the embezzled funds, which were used to purchase new equipment for the hospital. Mercy General became a benchmark for transparency and medical ethics, receiving numerous awards and recognitions. One December afternoon, Michael was in his new office when Jennifer walked in with a bouquet of flowers. "These are from the cardiology ward patients. They wanted to thank you for the excellent care they've been receiving," she said, kissing her husband. "Jennifer, do you realize how much our lives have changed since that day? For the better, my love. Much better. If Sarah hadn't stopped me from signing that document, but she did. And you know why? Because good people help each other. The truth always wins when we work together." Michael looked out the office window, watching the calm activity of the hospital. Patients receiving good care, employees working with dignity, families having their hopes renewed. "Jennifer, do you know what I've learned from all this?" "What?" "Facing the truth might be scary at first, but it's the only path to real peace." Just then, Sarah knocked on the door. "Dr. Michael, a letter arrived from the American Medical Association. It looks important." Michael opened the envelope. It was a notification that he had been nominated for the Ethical Physician of the Year award for his conduct throughout the entire case. "Sarah, this belongs to all of us. Without your support, I wouldn't have made it. Doctor, we just did what was right. And guess what? Brian just got accepted into nursing school. He'll start next year." "That's wonderful news." Jennifer hugged them both. "See? When we do good, good comes back to us multiplied." Later, at home, the Johnson family had dinner together for the first time in months, without a single worry hanging over them. Emily talked about her new school projects. Jennifer planned new cases to take on, and Michael simply enjoyed the peace of having a clear conscience. "Dad," Emily said, "did your patients hear the whole story?" "Some did, sweetheart. And you know what touches me the most?" "What?" "Several of them told me they trust me even more now, knowing I chose the truth even when it was hardest." "That's because people recognize honesty, Michael," Jennifer said. That night before bed, Michael thought about how a single decision could change the course of an entire life. If he had signed that document, he would never have discovered the truth, never helped the wronged colleagues, never seen Sarah's courageous side. Sometimes life's toughest moments are just disguised opportunities to show what we're truly made of. And when we choose the right path, even if it's the hardest one, we always find people willing to walk it with us. Nurse Sarah had not only saved Michael's career, but also the entire integrity of Mercy General Hospital and the lives of dozens of honest professionals. She proved that one determined and courageous person can make a difference in the lives of many. And Dr. Michael learned that admitting vulnerability and asking for help isn't a sign of weakness, but of wisdom. Together, they turned what seemed like defeat into the greatest victory of their professional lives. The end. So, what did you think of this story of courage and determination? Do you believe Dr. Michael made the right choice by trusting Nurse Sarah? Tell us in the comments which part moved you the most. Leave a like if the story touched you, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other incredible stories like this one. Your opinion means a lot to us.